remission, am I cured, what's my status? Well, we'll be taking, doing prostate checks periodically, and that's all they would say.
Yeah, yeah.
Thanks.
But
I don't know where the
Oh, well.
well is.
Deal with it as it goes.
yeah, one day at a time.
So you got, Greg should be here,
Yep, and
and Buck and Dave.
yes,
So yeah, you'll have enough
You
people.
and I will meet before that.
so, yep.
Hey, Joe.
Hey, how you doing, Mike?
Good, good. How you doing?
Getting by, you know. You got daily treatments now, radiation treatments for a month, but, comes in the territory.
My dad, who's since passed away from not from prostate,
Yeah.
he went through that
Yeah,
and recovered, and he was good for another 20 years.
there you go, that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah, exactly. So that's the plan.
Yeah, there you go, you got that right.
Yeah.
Well, they keep telling me that now, 2 years from now, we're gonna be doing this and this and this, so I'm
Yeah.
cautiously optimistic.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, but because I got a little family history, I gotta make sure.
Oh, yeah, sure, yeah. Well, they ran a genetic scan on me, you know, genetic workup, and that didn't show anything up with me, but my wife had, we got 2 daughters, and, she came up with some stuff that they needed to worry about, so.
Yeah, that's, the more we know, the
Yeah.
more
More
potential concerns we
Yeah,
have.
there you go.
Have a double-edged sword there.
Yeah, that's for sure.
You know, you wanna do what you can, but then there's things you probably can't control.
Yeah,
You
that's
know,
right.
health, so, yeah.
Hey, where's this, Excel project that we're in our area?
Well, I don't know that much about it, in all honesty, because, they haven't said nothing proposed yet. Jason might know a little more, because he's attended, a couple meetings with Excel, most recent one, we talked about it a little. I mean, I believe it's, I believe it's, I don't know if it's any of those parts I can.
Oh, yeah, it takes
Takes
the top quarter, man.
Yeah, so, you know, when they're talking about, I understand, like, up to 5,000.
Yeah.
So, I haven't seen any, I haven't seen any kind of, map that maps it,
Oh, okay.
Jason might, you know, they haven't actually applied to the public service commission yet, to my knowledge.
Oh, that's Katie,
Oh,
or
okay.
Jim,
It's
Jim is
not-
who I talked to about that one, yeah.
It's not
Oh, that's right,
far
it's like, is there any?
Yeah, okay.
But they're
They're
securing leases or
Yeah.
pre-leases, whatever they do to time the property.
Yeah.
So that's why word's getting around, Lisa, they had a little meeting, and, I guess the county board wants it on their, somebody to come to their January meeting, Excel, like, I might talk about it. Cause, you know, they get a lot of blowback,
Yeah.
but, well, it'll be interesting to see if that'll make any difference with the public services. I don't know. I don't think, I don't know how much sway the county would have, but
Yeah.
that's maybe up to the county board.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah.
Personal information as far as height, eyes, weight, all that kind of stuff. You have their driver's license.
I remember the initial notes there.
And so I'm like, and so my plan is still to go through and issue citations. And I'm trying to, we'll get a bunch of them.
Yeah.
We'll run 6, 10 of them, whatever, to try to make another point to the Amish, hey, this is coming, you know,
We
and
have
then,
their mailing addresses and.
yeah, and then if they don't come to court, they'll have a default judgment against them, but then they're ignoring the court system process, but that helps us with the lawsuit too.
It does, yep.
You know,
Yeah.
and
Like, you
that
gotta
we're following the same process we would with
Anybody else, yep, we're treating them just like everybody else, which is what I worked on in Ohio, just treating them like everybody else. There's no religious exemption from following the use requirements.
And, so that's kind of my process. And Sean's like, I don't really know what you mean. I'm like, oh, I have out there. And I'm out because I'm like, we got everything. We've been working on this pretty hard, actually.
Yeah.
And then he was telling like, hey, as a judge, you will be screwed. But now as a judge, like you said, the Amish have been 20 years. And then now, all of a sudden, you file 5 lawsuits in 1 year. Where have you been, Colin, in that last 19 years?
And where's all your documentation of what you tried to do, to get them? Because yeah, we're not dealing with regular Joe Schmoes on the street.
And I'm like, that's been going on since before, that's about 8 months. And like, but I'm like, if you're gonna try to take my final lawsuit at all, or usually,
Oh my
so
gosh.
that would be going on the next 10 to 15 years. You know,
Yes.
and so I'm like, that's why I was thinking that, something best approach, try to get them into the hole.
But I'm not traveling, so he's like,
The
if I need
application, I wanted to help them through,
Yep.
you know, and then get them like, oh, okay, that person's
No, work with
understanding.
us, yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Yep, because at some point, I think, they got to that point, they realized, okay, we don't have our smoke detectors and CO detectors in, we need to have for these, and they started complying a little bit more.
But yeah, it's too, because I mean, we can take and help with that process, we can make sure that, and that we're not, going after them really hard, and then making sure they comply, and that. But I think these towns are such a hard, dealing against, that I'm afraid that they're gonna take doing this very big, and that we want, everything, perfect, and that we want everything, right to the
Especially when, to the chair, because then the law enforcement. That's kind of complex.
I'm like, really easy, and that's the thing, I try to smart people in your shop, so it's like a day, and
Nothing.
then if you like cars out,
You'd be like, resend it.
and then,
I want to see the date you actually got it. I don't have to see it. Okay.
so yeah, Abby's gonna have all of her stuff that she's done with you.
Okay.
It wasn't like we stopped enforcing anything again. We still got letters,
Yep.
she's got work orders, and we've been doing that, we've got it all documented. She's got all of her on-site documented in an Excel document.
Yep, and I think that we need to get back with her when I got last week about when you're gonna fill out the citation form, so I'll make sure I send it to you.
What do you be taking? I can help.
Okay.
I have, we love all of us.
Yeah. They don't sign the state anymore, so they don't, they're just a stupid little document that we use. Did you read the book?
We had the same.
The same book, yeah, so I contacted the state, they don't sell them anymore, and so I'm trying to find.
Yeah, I know, like the
And then
office.
they don't do that, and the investigation is
Clear
clear as hell.
We can't not track it.
Right.
And then, so.
Yeah, so we're gonna have to, I'll call around other counties and do a list and see, so here's the citation books and where are you ordering them from? Yeah, because the place that I had the list before, I contacted them, they're like, yep, we don't.
So that's what
we
she
don't
says,
sell
I think we're gonna put them,
Oh, that's helpful. So-
Then it might be your almost.
you know, how I leave when you do those things. He can't drive anyway, he's not clear to stop. We don't know.
That's a little different.
I know.
Anybody's got to be.
So, anyway, she's trying to work out on it. If anybody from Kansas or some, or you,
And then now they're trying to take insurance. I'm like, hey, you didn't preach it.
Yeah.
Take it back if I buy it.
I did not,
Yeah,
That we're in the go.
Yeah.
you know,
okay, well, yeah, you can go fix it.
I was gonna worry that way.
isn't because it's health.
It's not a
So-
real one for the 2020.
Let's,
So I said, you just need to check.
So now.
Okay, well, okay, we'll touch base. Thanks.
Well, just say, yeah, this is new information.
So,
Because he was out of town.
right. And he can't drive. So, finally got it. Well, they don't know anymore.
They just heard about it.
Just, yeah. So Candace just called. Candace just called. Oh, that's my fault. What's going on? And Vicky just just said she talked to the liaison at the school, so we'll text us or something, when we need this meeting. And she wants, I think she wants to come to this thing. And that's at our office.
Good morning. My name is Buck Malik. I'm a resident of the town of Hudson, not a county board member, but a citizen member of this zoning board of adjustment. It's October 24th, 2024, and it's December 5th. I'm looking at the minutes of the last meeting, sorry. December 5th, 2024. The clock on the wall says it's 10:02. And the agenda I got says we were going to start at 10 o'clock today in the St. Croix County Government Center, room 1400, and that's where we are. Therefore, I'm calling this meeting to order. I will ask the other board members and our alternate member to introduce themselves, followed by the staff who are apt to speak during this meeting. And then we'll go from there. Dave?
Dave Peterson, citizen member, town of Kinnickinnick.
Steve, press the big bar. There you go.
Steve Smart, citizen, Hudson Township, non-voting alternative member.
Joe Miller, citizen member, town of Hammond.
Jason Cheezick, Community Development Director.
Mike Wozniak, Land Use Administrator.
Julie Peterson, Community Development Department.
Very good, thank you for that. That concludes our roll call. We have a quorum present, so we can conduct business. Julie, do you believe that this meeting was properly noticed and published in the Star Observer, the county newspaper?
I do.
If anybody has reason to dispute that, please mention it now. Okay, we'll assume it was done. We have minutes, board members, from that meeting of October 24th. I didn't have any edits for it. Did you have any? All right, those meeting minutes will be deemed approved then in the form they were provided to us. We have two hearings today. In one of them, Mr. Miller is, since he's on the board in the town of Hammond, he's deemed himself to think it appropriate to recuse himself from the discussion and the voting. But in the other one, in the town of Somerset, he has no such issue. So Joe will sit with us and help us make the decision on that one. So whichever staff member is going to present the Somerset application, please do that. Mr. Wozniak is handing out a draft decision document that he has prepared in advance. I think board members will wait and make our decision before we, lest we be influenced by his views.
Okay, Board of Adjustment members, public applicants that are here for today's Board of Adjustment meeting. I'll note that the first item we have on the agenda is a conditional use permit request from William Dean Field, Dean's Concrete, for a contractor storage yard conditional use permit. The site address is 1719 County Road I, and I'll note that the property in question is in an R2 residential district. Lot size of 17.8 acres. And as is customary, we have included a copy of the staff report that I'm running through in what I present here today, and the application submitted by Mr. Field. The little background on this, William Field, the property owner and operator of Dean's Concrete and Pumping, has applied for, again, a conditional use permit for a contractor storage yard per section 15.330 of the zoning ordinance. The business is a general concrete placement and pumping business. And as noted here in the lower bullet points, the applicant has identified the kind of equipment that would be stored on the property. And also notes equipment may be kept at job sites and moved between jobs, so it may not always be on the subject property. Anticipation of growth in the business, the applicant expects more vehicles and equipment in the future. And I would note that there are currently 7 employees that the owners identified. 1 part-time employee lives on site, and other employees may come to the site for equipment pickup or drop-off. The applicants noted hours of operation of 5 a.m. to 6 p.m., occasional Saturdays, with all work conducted off-site. That does differ somewhat from the standard in the prescriptive requirements for contractor storage yards. I'll get to that, and we've noted in the recommended action for this item a limit that would be consistent with the provision in the in section 15.330. And no sales or customers are anticipated on site. A few details about the property. The property has an existing uninhabited farmhouse and an uninhabited mobile home as well, with a current pallet system. Any additional future outdoor storage would need to meet all applicable regulations. And no anticipated signage at this time. As is normally the case with these contractor storage yards or home-based businesses for that matter, any future signs are required to abide by the county zoning ordinance chapter or section 15.380 of the zoning ordinance. Existing lighting on the property would be pointed downwards. Additional lighting and cameras are planned on being added. The lighting would have to meet standard as noted in the zoning ordinance, and again, primarily directed downward and not off the property. The storage area has some natural screening to the north, and I note that a driveway exists that services both residences and the storage space. Little site map here that identifies the parcel actually includes a fragment on the south side of Highway 64, and it's that's not going to be used as part of the contractor storage yard, so it would be north of the highway and to the east of the county road. And also a look at the current zoning. The property is located in an R2 zone district. It is fairly proximate to the village limits of the village of Somerset. And you have the school campus area in the vicinity, some residential in the village to the north, and some residential occurring over to the west as well in the village of Somerset. This is just an image of the village zoning for the interest of the Board of Adjustment. Quick note on surrounding land use. The surrounding properties north and west are mixed ag residential. In close proximity to the northwest is the Somerset Public School District number 1, and again, kind of a school campus arrangement in that area. So it's fairly busy when school is letting in and letting out along the county road. And south and east of the site borders ag and the highway 3564 as well, prominent in the area. This isn't an interchange, it's an overpass, as Board of Adjustment members are probably aware of, more than likely having traveled that area. The site plan provided by the applicant, they're proposing tree plantings as noted on this site plan that would help to screen and buffer, and fencing as well. Fencing and tree plantings anticipated to be added to the northwest and western property lines. Crossed off on here are our off sections are removed from the site. I'd note that indicated storage area has kind of changed location from this. I think this current site conditions description reflects the area that would be identified as the contractor storage yard area, and 2 barns have been removed. There's an existing building that will be utilized for the business use. And just to give you some images of what the site looks like, existing dwelling and manufactured home, kind of looking down the driveway into the site. The building that has been retained, and just more views, part of the storage area closest to the county road, and view towards the school from the edge of the storage shed, kind of looking across the county road into the distance. Again, some views of the storage shed that's being retained and to be used by the business. And lastly, view from the sort of the off of the county road north of the driveway, looking back towards the site. And again, some additional views. The Town Board of Somerset considered this application at a meeting held on November 13th, and we've included on this slide the sort of recommended requirements that the town would like to see this application adhere to. They only wanted to see the front 5 acres of the County Road I being used, along County Road I being used for parking for the business vehicles, trailers, and equipment, not the entire 20 acres. No parking of any equipment on the land separated by 64 corridor that accesses off of 170th. And they only want to see Mr. Fields' equipment for his business stored, and no other storage of other people's campers and equipment. The applicant has talked to staff about potentially trying to work with other businesses to store their equipment. That may be outside of the scope of what's intended under the contractor yard use, and it wasn't included as part of this proposal to the Board of Adjustment. Screening, with the buffer trees on the north side and along County I, out of road, right-of-way is requested, and no replacement of the mobile home, as current mobile home is grandfathered in, but if removed, a new mobile home cannot be brought in. Nothing is being proposed in respect to the mobile home as part of this proposal. Lastly, I've noted that we have put together a draft decision document with some proposed findings of fact, conclusions of law, and some conditions, a proposed action that the board can consider if it satisfies your intentions regarding this application. And you should review this. I can pull it up and following public hearing, if go through it further if you have questions or would like to discuss any of the content of the draft decision document. And I'll ask Julie, is that share folder available here?
Consistent with our discussion at the last meeting, we will conduct the hearing before we examine Mike's proposed decision document. It has been provided to the applicant, however, so that the applicant can be ready if he wishes to comment upon it, especially if he disagrees with it. So we'll go ahead with the hearing as soon as I ask the board members if they have any questions right now for Mr. Wozniak on his presentation. Joe, you have a question for
Yeah,
Mike?
Mike, how far well, I'm assuming that the county road is not affected by weight restrictions, right?
I believe not, and this application was referred to highway, and they didn't, if it's approved as proposed, they didn't have any issues with it. Max Erickson on our staff who worked on this could maybe mention that, but that's my understanding, Max? Yeah.
Okay, thanks.
All right. Then what we'll do is we'll ask first if there's anybody in the room who wants to speak in favor of our granting the application for the conditional use permit. And usually the applicant and their attorneys and their surveyors and their experts speak at this time. And then I'll ask if there's anybody in the room who wants to speak in opposition to the grant of the conditional use permit. And finally, those who aren't necessarily for or against, but just have some comment or something they think would help the board to make the best possible decision. When the applicant speaks, you have now seen what the staff would propose in terms of conditions. And in conditional use permits, it's all about the conditions. So if there's something in what the staff is proposing for us to adopt as conditions that you don't think is practical or right or fair or whatever, for any reason at all, you disagree with the proposed conditions, be sure to point that out to us and make your case. And we may dialogue with you. Something you bring up may raise a question for us. And we'll go on with that as long as we need, and then we'll hear from other people. So does Mr. Field or anybody on his behalf wish to speak now?
I'll speak.
Great. Come up to our microphone. We're being recorded, and for all I know, we're being broadcast to the other side of the world or something. Here you go.
How you guys doing?
Fine.
Mike, that was very well said.
The only concern I have is limiting me to my equipment only, as I have a lot of friends in the industry that have larger equipment. This being a 4-season road, I would like to have other people's equipment coming in and out of there, which he mentioned that we plan to grow as the time goes on. I feel that all the noise from the freeway and the school is much louder than anything or any equipment we will be running out there. So we will not be a nuisance to the school or traffic, being that we are gone most parts of the day. We have tractor trailers also that we'd like to have staged on site, and that is not also written in there or wasn't spoke about. Basically, everything he had said covers what we want to do. I just want to know what steps I need to take to move forward with more storage, more outdoor storage, whether it's another conditional use permit or different zoning. For example, Michael's stores their stuff in town, and they may not be able to keep their equipment there next year, so a spot like what I have, I feel would be great for cleaning up the town and confining everything to one area. That's all I have. If there's anything anybody wants to add to it.
Questions? Mr. Cheese, how would the administration like to proceed with the proposed expansion of this application to something other than a contractor storage yard?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And that it is staff's beliefs in interpreting the ordinance that a contractor storage yard is only for the storage of the property owner's equipment itself and not for additional storage for other people to be able to store on the property. And so if, and that the applicant would like to take and expand the use in the future to include other businesses storing their equipment on site, that would be best handled by changing the zoning of the property into more of a commercial status at that point, which then that process would involve going to the town first. And then if the town approves of it, then they could come through the process here at the county, which would be the Community Development Committee and County Board. But that is our suggestion and that for how to expand into those other options. But right now, if the Board of Adjustment was okay with granting a conditional use permit for the storage of the applicant's equipment himself, that would buy him the time and that move into those other permitting processes, which could still potentially be done before spring or summer of 2025 if the town board was willing to approve as well.
Do you understand that, Mr. Field?
Yeah, that makes sense.
See, we don't have the authority to change zoning, and
Right.
the town has to agree to change zoning, and there's a notice process and public hearings involved with the changing of zoning. And so that's the view of Mr. Cheese as what would be needed in order to store any property that you don't own or rent and use in your business. Not to say it can't happen, but of course there might be opposition to something like that.
Okay.
No way to predict exactly.
In there, it says no friends' equipment or campers. If it's my personal campers or family's campers, stuff like that, am I still limited to?
Are you living there?
I'm not. Nobody will be living in campers. It would just be set there temporarily or moving
But I
in.
mean, are you the resident on the property that's talked about here, the
No.
one person?
I'm not a
I
resident.
think people can store their personal property on the place they live, but I don't, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cheesit.
he would be able to store his own equipment or his own camper on that site. And that, because there is a dwelling there and that, so because there is a dwelling, that's why he's able to have the camper there. But if that dwelling was to be removed, then the camper wouldn't be allowed, or we'd have to do an outdoor storage type of permit process,
And his friends' campers?
and that they would not be allowed without doing that outdoor storage permit process, so, yep.
Is that clear to you, Mr. Field?
Yes, it is.
Okay, once again, we're boxed in. We can only work with the authority we have.
Sounds good.
Yeah, anything else you want to say?
Well, these pictures don't do any justice to how it looked when I first got the property in June, but I wish I had pictures to add of how much stuff, probably 30-plus dumpsters that I've hauled out of there, concrete, garbage, and scrap, so it has come a long ways, and my main concern is public safety and not being a nuisance to the town, so if it takes screening or fencing to get the ball rolling a little bit here, I'm open to anything you guys recommend.
Great, okay, stand by. Does anybody else want to speak in favor of this application? Is anybody here to speak in opposition to it? Or neither for nor against, but got something important to say about it? No, I guess you're the only one. Board members, any more questions?
Yeah, your friend's equipment that's in town, if they were to bring it out to your property and leave it, would it be like long-term winter storage, or would they be operating it periodically, daily, weekly, or something like that?
Most of the people I have in town are large equipment that will be restricted during spring and fall defrost and unthaw. And that's why I figured with County Road I access here, driveway directly off of County Road I, that it would be the right area and the right spot to have equipment coming in and out of there it would just be seasonal for the most part. But my equipment will be, everything is conducted off-site, and very, very little do we bring it back to the shop. Usually it moves job to job. Friends' equipment would be there seasonal.
Okay, so it'd sit there for like a month without being started up and without being moved and that sort of thing?
Well, it may be, the whole point of them parking it here would be because they're restricted during that time to leaving their driveway and going out onto that road. So it would be, this would be in favor of them so that they can still go and conduct their work without getting fined pulling out on the city roads.
But we'd have to rezone in order to give that approval.
Right, yeah, I realize that.
Other people would have to rezone, not us. Yeah.
I'm just thinking about that vacant lot across the road.
Across the highway in the southwest or southeast.
You know, if it's gonna be long-term storage and, you know, only be parked there for the winter or something like that, that would be an option I would think that we could explore.
Well, that might be easier to rezone, but it would first have to be severed, I think. You know, it'd have to be its own property. Yep, all things you can talk over with the administration probably, if you wish to.
Sounds good.
Well, board members, let's get a sense of where you think you want to go with this, and then we can take a look at the possible conditions. I guess I'm thinking this is a positive thing, as long as we get the conditions right, huh? All right, let's see what Mr. Wozniak has prepared for us here.
The draft decision document I had handed out, as is customary, includes under findings of fact, basically information about the site as well as the applicable regulations in zoning under 15.330, as I noted in my overview of the presentation, that the rules or standards that apply. And I won't, I'm sure you've read this stuff, and I won't spend a lot of time. I would call out we've referenced in the findings what the applicant has noted for their hours. And I did call out that the standard in 15.330 is somewhat different. And I'm just looking here. You can see under operational standards for that section of the zoning in the document, it's noted that in R1 and R2 districts, hours of operation shall not occur earlier than 6 a.m. or later than 7 p.m. So what we've included further down in this document under proposed conditions reflects that ordinance requirement. And we have some statements that we've included to address consistency with approval criteria. And I would suggest to the board members that if you feel any of these statements that staff has drafted as potential conclusions for consistency with the approval criteria, if you have think it needs any enhancement, change, or have any issues with what we've put down, feel free to offer any comments on this. I think I would just say generally, it appears that as proposed, this would be consistent with what's intended for the contractor yard provision and would not be detrimental to surrounding properties and inconsistent with the nature of the area. If it would expand and increase in scope, which would be subject to the change of zone, I think then that would have to be evaluated at that time. But based on just Mr. Fields' equipment and his business operation, we feel that it's consistent with the criteria established for conditional use permit approval. I would note that we have laid out conditions that if the Board of Adjustment is inclined to approve this conditional use permit, we've spelled out 12 conditions that would be based on the findings and the conclusions referenced in this document. And specifically, I'd call out those hours we did adjust to be consistent with the ordinance requirement. The other thing I'd say about this is that if you have any ideas, Mr. Field could probably explain what his intention for fencing and landscaping are. We don't have a specific plan in hand. And if you want to be more specific on that, you could certainly ask the applicant what his specific intentions are, and you could include more detail in a condition if you're inclined to. And at that, I can field any questions you may have about this document.
Correct my memory. My recollection is that our typical vegetative buffer standard is 80% opacity within 3 years to a height of 5 feet. Have I got that right?
Yeah, you do on the opacity, and well, let's. I think that standard is probably in our parking, but I can see if we spell it out in 15.330.
I don't know whether it'd be in the ordinance, but I'm
Yeah,
thinking about other
is.
cases
You're
that
correct.
we've dealt with.
I think it's falls under like screening of parking areas, and that 80% opacity is a requirement. And traditionally, it's been looked at as with landscaping, the board in the past has had an expectation of, plantings at 5 to 6 feet. Some of these sites, there have been plantings done at smaller sizes that have, given the setting, it was thought appropriate that they would eventually grow and provide a sufficient buffer. But to achieve that 80% in, whether it's 3 or 5 years, I can't recall. We could look it up if the board wants to know specifically. You can't be planting seedlings, obviously. You have to go maybe in the 5 to 6 foot range with tree plantings to achieve that in that amount of time.
And you usually have to have more than one row in order to make that.
To achieve the 80% opacity, correct.
Yeah. And they normally have to be evergreens in order to work year-round.
Yeah.
I'm not, your proposed decision document here at number 5 gives the staff the discretion to work that out. So I'm just really probing around where your starting point would be, Mr. Wozniak, with regard to that screening. And I think I've heard an adequate answer, at least for me. I don't feel the need to be prescriptive here in our decision, so long as I have a reasonable confidence you're applying a standard that's consistent with what we've done before. Let me raise a somewhat different question. With respect to lighting, security lighting in particular, it's always a concern in a business context. We have all, for a long time, required to be downward directed, and I'm sure the ordinance even requires that now. But there was a time when we did not like to see, welcome Mr. Telejohn, let the record show that our last board member has arrived here. There's come to be more and more concern about glare and nighttime glare, and of course, right next to a highway and next to a school system, maybe it's not as important in this context. But I at least am open to the concept that if an applicant would like to use the kind of lighting that is motion sensitive, that is triggered by motion, which would generally fit their needs for security, that I would view that favorably. The theory being that whenever the coyotes aren't moving around and the raccoons aren't moving around, the lights will be off. Yeah. And that's probably generally a good thing.
It's my understanding, and Mr. Field could clarify, but use of security cameras and lighting, it's some significant valuable equipment. And so fencing and wanting to keep it secure and not have folks wandering around on the site is a priority for him and his business operation. Many of our settings, as the Board of Adjustment is aware for some of these contractor yards, often they have dwelling sites all around them. And the being lit up brightly can be objectionable to neighbors, and so that motion sensitive lighting is a good solution for some of these kinds of things. This is a somewhat busier area, and it's pretty close to the village limits, and the streets in the village have some street lighting as typically. So it's a little different scenario than some of what we get in the more rural areas, but nevertheless, keeping it from being a distraction to motorists or objectionable to neighbors is usually our priority.
You have proposed in item number 4 that they would operate occasional Saturdays. So if you got complaints from a neighbor that there had been operations 3 Saturdays in a row, would you consider that to no longer be occasional? What standard would you apply, or do you want us to tighten that up?
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. I'd say if if we started receiving a complaint or complaints, and the level of activity was objectionable, then I think we would address that issue with the applicant, and, you know, in a worst case, if we couldn't reach an understanding, we could bring it back to the Board of Adjustment for some dialogue. But whether that condition was being properly met. But three in a row, you know, I suspect it might depend a little on season. Mr. Field could speak to his activity, but in the dead of winter, maybe there's somewhat less activity, and during the regular construction season, probably quite a bit more. And so you might see more need for Saturdays. Again, he could speak to his business operation better than staff.
But probably no one can predict the future.
Yeah.
And a successful business often grows, and sometimes that means growing in their hours. Are you suggesting that you would take an average over a whole year in order to apply the occasional
Well,
standard?
I guess what I'm suggesting is the ordinance isn't specific about something like that, and we would have to use our best judgment and make an interpretation.
Or else we'll have to, I mean, that is one area in which we have discretion to name a number.
Yes, you do.
Now, the ordinance calls for 6 a.m. to 7 p.m. The applicant apparently is used to 5 a.m. to 6 p.m., shifting 1 hour earlier. And again, that's an area in which I guess this board has the authority to move the hours around for good reasons, if we find good reasons to do that. Did you discuss that with the applicant already? That you were going to recommend different hours?
Well, I think we did, and we basically pointed out what the ordinance says to the applicant. You know, I just sentiments as far as staff on this one. The busiest time in that immediate vicinity is when school is letting in and out. It's hectic, which probably doesn't coincide so much with when Mr. Field's vehicles are normally coming in and out. But that's probably the biggest challenge in that particular area for, you know, access to and from the county road, because you know, you have school buses and you have parents picking up or dropping off. Plus you might have some commuter traffic, especially the morning time, but as well. But those schools, when the schools are going in and out, it's busy there. I've been by there a number of times when that's happening. So that's probably just my perspective on it.
Yeah. Do you want to speak to this point, Mr. Field? Does that make a difference to you? Come on up to the microphone, if you will, and let's hear about that before we impose the standard without consideration of the alternative.
The reason we had stated 5 a.m. in there as our start time is because a lot of times we have to be on the other end of the metro by 6 or 6:30. So our employees would have to a lot of times leave by 5 a.m., but they're not going to be out there jackhammering on trucks or pounding hammers. You hop in the truck and you drive out of the driveway. There will be no inconvenience to the school traffic or noise. They won't even know that we had left by that time. We're long gone and on site by the time school or any traffic is even opening up over there.
Indeed, you'd argue that it's better for commuter and school traffic if you leave earlier.
Much better.
It'd probably even better if you left at 4 a.m.
Correct.
What about the return time?
The return
You
times.
prefer 6 and the ordinance says 7.
The return times vary day by day as everyone has different site times. Every day is different. We can't predict what time anybody's gonna be back, but it is the same thing. All cleanup is done off-site, and by the time the guys get back to the shop, either they're gonna be coming in from the opposite direction, County Road E to I, which is easier access from 64 versus coming through County Road I through Somerset. Most of the time we come from Stillwater, so you would take that first exit. When you make it onto the Wisconsin side, take County Road E to I and then come in that way, which I think that would be a huge factor. But we're so small scale where I don't believe that you guys will be getting calls on even Saturdays. Most of our guys have the option on Friday nights to take the truck back to their personal residence so that it's easier and most convenient for them to get to their job site Saturday morning. You guys did mention it, during the construction season, it will be almost every Saturday, but not everybody is gonna be reporting to the property where the conditional use is and leaving from there every Saturday morning. A lot of our guys take the trucks home and then leave from their personal residence. So I don't think that Saturdays will be that much of an inconvenience. It may just be me, myself, leaving from there every Saturday during the construction season.
Well, I hear you, but of course, what we decide will be permanent. For this site, your son, if he takes on the business, will be running it. Your grandson will be running. You get run over by a truck, your estate will sell the business to somebody else, and they will operate under the same conditions that we decide on today. That's why we have to look out there long range for folks who will operate to the full limit of whatever it is that we say. You had a question, Mr. Peterson?
I assume that equipment probably has backup alarms, is that correct?
We've removed majority of the backup alarms. The newer ones come from the dealership with backup beepers. But as of right now, only one of our trucks has a backup alarm, and then the skid steers have backup beepers. But if that is a major concern, we will have that unplugged so they're not beeping out there.
Yeah, my thought was if you started at 5 in the morning and some of the neighbors look like not too far from some homes might object to that noise in the morning. That's my only thought.
It's true, and one of the things we've done, mostly with open pit mines, is that we've tried to ask people to set up their traffic flow on their site so that they can go forward to load and not have to be backing up, like to minimize that. So we could ask you to do that, and obviously be in your own interest to do that so you have good relationships with your neighbors.
It's faster and most convenient for us to do is exactly what you're saying. That's how we run everything right now. You pull in and you park so that you're in a forward-facing direction as you go to leave. Everything is ready the night before, where you start your truck, you do a walk around and you hit the road. There's mainly no backing up during the morning hours. It would be more afternoon if there was any, which I'm almost certain we could clear that 7 p.m. That's a late day for anybody. So we're usually parked and shut down by 7 p.m.
I wanted to address the end of the day hour, to whether that should be 6 or should be 7. And it seems to me that there will be little commuter traffic at either of those hours. But what has your experience been with this property?
Definitely, like you guys had mentioned, it's school hours, early in the morning, whatever it is, 7:30 when everyone's bringing their kids, and 3, 4 o'clock is very busy. So we usually start our last job of the day around 3, 4 o'clock around the metro, which would put us back around that 6 to 7 p.m. I would prefer that 7 p.m. shutdown time, so we're not limited to, if we have guys getting back at 6:45, they should be wrapped up and out of there by 7. And again, as I mentioned before, the highway noise and the school noise, from what I've noticed as I'm out there, and this cleanup of this property has been far greater disturbance than anything that we will be running operational day to day. And I don't know as of right now if you guys have gotten any calls or complaints. But it was a ruckus with the excavators and the equipment getting all this to the condition that it's in right now. I think our day-to-day operations will be much, much less than what I've already done out there.
I don't think we've gotten any complaints about the cleanup activities.
Mr. Wozniak, did the town comment on the hours? If there had been complaints, they might have thought that the 5 to 6 was good or bad, or the 6 or 7 was better or worse. Did the town indicate any concern about the hours, or did they rubber stamp that?
Pardon, what we heard from the town was what was laid out on that slide that I included in the presentation and the PowerPoint, and I don't believe they addressed hours. I'd maybe defer to Max Erickson if, so no, they didn't speak to that issue.
Well, then presumably they haven't had complaints either. To your point, Mr. Field. That's it for my line of questioning, I guess. I'd be inclined to give them 5 to 7 for operating hours myself. And otherwise to track right along with Mr. Wozniak's draft here.
You want to address the backup alarm in the final? You think we should address that backup alarm in the final? And as you say, it gets run over and somebody else gets the business.
If you were going to say it, Mr. Peterson, would you say something like the use of backup alarms will be minimized, consistent with safe practices, something like that?
Yeah.
We could definitely minimize the backup alarms by having everyone in a forward-facing direction so that first thing in the morning, you're to start your truck and pull straight out. There is no backing up.
Yeah. Can you work that into the document, Mr. Wozniak? Some language like that, the use of backup alarms will be minimized, comma, consistent with safe operations.
We can do that, and we'll adjust that decision document accordingly.
Well,
Provide copy for.
Yeah, only, we haven't quite got to vote.
Yeah, if you act on it.
Assuming that's a majority
Yes,
decision.
correct.
How about backup alarms from the 5 a.m. to 7 p.m. timeline? Is that acceptable during those times to have backup alarms beeping during those times throughout the day?
If it's necessary for safety, of course. Yep, that's primarily what they're there for. We don't want to be the cause of injuries.
Got it.
Yep. Okay, board members, shall I close the hearing? I'll close the hearing, which means we won't take any more testimony or receive any more documents. We'll make our decision based on what we've got. And board members, are you ready to decide, actually?
I'd move we approve the conditional use permit as amended.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Do you wish to participate in the discussion? Or are you, Mr. Telejohn? Yeah, okay. In that case, I'll call for the vote. All those in favor vote aye.
Aye.
Those opposed vote nay. Decision is unanimous. The record should show that Mr. Telejohn, although present, has not voted in as much as he was not here for all of it. Very good. And we're glad to have you on any terms. Thank you. Thank you. It'll take a few days, I guess, to get this revised and signed. Mr. Chiza, are you ready for the next one?
Yes, Mr. Chair, just give me 1 second to pull it up here on the agenda packet.
Okay, Mr. Chair, I'm going to recuse myself on this application because I'm a board member for the town of Hammond, and I'll be in the audience to answer any questions with respect to the town's position.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the public, what I just handed out was Exhibit 1 that was received on Tuesday, December 3rd, 2024, from Paul Haig with the town of Hammond. He's the town chair. And I'll go through those comments and that towards the end of the staff report here. So our agenda item up next is a conditional use permit application submitted by Wyatt Porter and P&K Lawn Care in the town of Hammond for a contractor storage yard in an R2 zoned property. And the property is located in the southwest quarter of Section 5, Town 29 North, Range 17 West, Town of Hammond, also known as 1612 110th Avenue. The proper Class 2 hearing notice under Wisconsin Statute Chapter 985 was published prior to this hearing. So some background on this application. So the owner does have a home and a fairly large accessory building on this site. A contractor storage ordinance as defined underneath the county's ordinance in section 15.330 is for the portion of the property that is outside of the main building on site. And that it is intended that the materials that they have on site will be used by the contractor, that they won't have any sales and that, or anybody coming to the property to buy materials. Some of the work that they do is, of course, any kind of lawn service, landscaping needs, and that water supply lines to irrigate, and concrete flat work, snow plowing in the winter. Some of the equipment that the applicant proposes to store on site would be snow plows, pushers, trenchers, excavators, a compact wheel loader, zero-turn lawnmowers, skid steers, the attachments, and that for the skid steers, and roughly 3 to 4 trailers. Usually the equipment stays on the site or goes job to job. And the outdoor storage part of this application would be for some equipment, some employee parking, and also for some other landscape materials like field borders and topsoil. So I've covered kind of the top 2 things there and that, but there will be some storage of equipment and tools within the existing accessory building that is part of the house there on site. You'll see some of the photos and that'll make more sense because it's kind of like a shed house setup. But the hours of operation and the amount of employees that the applicant is wanting is from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. The weekends would be based on the weather. Of course, if it snows and that, the applicant would likely be going out to plow snow. And most of the employees though would be reporting directly to the job site each day, not directly to the contractor storage yard. The applicant currently, and that wants 4 full-time and 2 to 5 part-time employees. And then those employees would be working part-time hours depending on snow events in the winter season. Traffic estimates are between 2 to 5 cars in the morning and 2 to 5 cars in the afternoon as they're coming and going from the contractor storage yard site. As I've kind of mentioned before, there is the dwelling of the applicant that is attached to a large accessory building on site, but that is the only building on that property. They have installed some trees along 110th Avenue and 160th Street already to help screen the outdoor storage area on the site. We've got photos of that. And the trailer and equipment storage and employee parking, so all the outdoor storage is to be on the west side of the shop, which already has an existing tree line that buffers the property to the east and to the north. And they've currently got 2 driveways from 110th Avenue and 160th Street that they're using both for their personal use and for this contractor type of use. So I will mention that this was an after-the-fact application as well. And Abby Coffin with our department worked with the applicant to clean the site completely up, that they were agreeable to do so. And so currently the property is not in violation of the ordinance, but now that the applicant is aware of the CUP process, that's why they applied in that for the 2025 season. So there's currently no violation, but it was something that we did work on. Some extra background is that, you know, if there's any other outdoor storage in the future, they'll have to follow the ordinance, as well as any signage or outdoor lights would also have to meet the ordinance. And they do intend on having normal garbage service. So if we consider where the site is here, so again, this is in the town of Hammond. At the intersection, it's a corner lot of 110th Avenue and 160th Street. The dwelling itself is on the parcel here highlighted in yellow, but they do own the adjoining parcel to the east of the parcel with the dwelling. Shows the general zoning of the area is all R2. Here is an aerial image, and I think I was wrong actually. So the house and the contractor in that area is actually on the blue highlighted parcel, and the yellow parcel here, and that is vacant. So here is the shed portion of the house, and then the north portion here has a kind of a wraparound porch on 2 sides, and so that is their dwelling. They were having some outdoor storage of topsoil and boulders and stuff out here, and that again, that has been cleaned up since the aerial was done here, but then the parking for the equipment and the staff, and that would be all to the west side of the building over here. So here's some pictures of the site. So this would be and that the view from 110th Avenue and 160th Street, so from the road corner. Again, the house with the porch wrapping around right here. Here is the shed portion. This would be looking from the south, looking north. The outdoor equipment and staff parking would be over here to the right, kind of by where that blue pickup is. This here is the north property line. So this picture was actually taking from 160th Street north of the property. You can kind of see the gold color of the shed roof here in the background. So that is the screening that they've already got along the north. This here would be the view from the east, looking kind of northwest of the property. So this is like the back side of the shed, back side of the house, and this would be where the machines and the staff would be parked outdoors right here. This here, and that would be basically looking north, and that, the building is over here, so this would be the east side of the building, and that where that storage area would be. So that picture was taken over here by these crates, so another view of the building itself. This is a photo in that from the parking area to the east. And this here, and that would be basically standing at the shed and looking towards 110th Avenue or towards the south. The photo here on the left is some trees that have been planted. They've got 2 rows of small pines along 110th Avenue and 160th Street. This here photo on the right is the area that they were previously storing boulders and topsoil, and this is a southeast view of the property, which I think is actually a southwest view, because here's the intersection of 110th and 160th. So, and then when we had to publish the agenda packet, we did not have any comments from the town of Hammond yet, but that is what I provided the board as Exhibit 1. And so I will read that for the file right now. Again, it was from Paul to Stephanie, and it said, "Good morning, Stephanie. The Town of Hammond Planning Board met on Monday, 12/2/2024, and talked about the CUP application for Wyatt Porter. Have surrounding neighbors made any comments about the use of the property? Will the equipment be stored inside? Truck traffic on 160th Street South and 160th Street and 110th Avenue, too fast, curves and kids, and that road weight limits need to be observed when the roads are posted. We have had conversations in the past about non-compliance. Town of Hammond allows 1 driveway access per property. There is a driveway access off of 110th Avenue, which is the documented access for that parcel. Wyatt also accesses the property from the driveway on 160th Street, which I have told him not to do. The driveway off of 160th Street needs to not be used as the access to the residence. The property is recorded as 2 parcels. The driveway on 110th Street has a culvert that needs to have metal end flows installed, not plastic that are currently. So I believe that was 110th Avenue. So that was the town's comments. And then we've got a finding in fact conclusion document for the board after you hear any other testimony. And with that, I'll turn it over to the board for any questions.
Is anybody here to speak on behalf of the applicant? Is anybody in the room desiring to speak about this application? You, sir? Yep. Please step up to our podium there and identify yourself.
I will just add one more thing, Mr. Chair. I just pulled up a site sketch that was in the packet. And I'll leave that up just because it might be easier to understand how the site lays after going through it. So thank you.
We had a place to sign in. Did you get a chance to sign our little? I did not. Please do that. Okay. We'll wait for you, and then I forgot to make that announcement at the beginning. Whoever takes over this job next, don't forget that.
You're gonna have to document everything though before you leave.
Yeah. Okay, so you pledged to tell us the truth and nothing but the truth. What is your name?
So help me God. Dave Arneson.
Yes, Mr. Arneson. Do you live nearby?
I live on Kitty Corner, 160th and 110th Avenue.
What would you like us to know?
I'm very concerned about the noise. I'm very concerned about the level of operating hours. I'm also concerned about burning on the site. Now, when he first moved in, I've been there 40 years, okay? Nice quiet lot, middle of nowhere. But there is an inordinate amount of traffic in this landscaping yard. When he says cars morning and night, it's all day, okay? When it says he's cleaned up the boulders, he hauled no less than 10 loads of boulders in there yesterday in his dump truck. It's a landscape yard, but he is very industrious, Mr. Porter, and I can't blame him for making a living for his family, but it is very loud. It is a lot of activity. During the summer, the cars are coming and going with the lawnmowers all day. Now, if you factor in 5 full-time employees, 5 part-time employees, each having a truck, that's some traffic, okay, that never used to be there. When he drops these boulders are not small boulders, they're the big boulders that you wonder how they got them in the yard in the first place. When he drops them with his large payloader into the back of his dump truck, it sounds like a large explosion. We run out of the house and say, what happened? And it's just Wyatt dropping another boulder. This is occurring throughout the year. And that's a lot of noise. But I guess our major concerns besides the noise are the hours of operation. It goes late into the night. So as people go home, they drop their gravel, their black dirt, their mulch, and then he spends much of the night after they're done moving it around with his payloader and bobcats. So it goes well to 10 o'clock at night, Sunday nights, holiday nights, it kind of doesn't stop. So I don't know if saying anything makes much difference, but I would expect that he would want to expand this business and make it bigger. As far as not using the road off 160th Street, he's using that all the time. So, and I don't blame him for fuel efficiency, but seems as though every truck that he gets seems to be installed with headers immediately, and they don't drive slow. Okay, so they're taking off from our corner on a regular basis, and these 1-ton trucks are going like son of a gun, taking off out of there. So noise, traffic, and one thing that we notice and we have some concerns about is the burning. He must bring the landscaping materials from places that he's worked, brings them back in his dump truck, puts them in the front yard, and then it's burned. Now, I don't have problems with fires, but I don't know if there's burning pits permits being issued, if he's burning arsenic-laden 4x4s, 6x6s, or railroad ties. But something smells kind of funny. And this is not always, but it's sometimes. Not what I would expect from a typical landscaping service is my point. So I'm not suggesting that he be stopped from running his business, but I have concerns of his hours of operation and what his future plans are. He's got that whole front lot there in front of him. Okay, are there conditions in place that keep him from developing that into a full-scale landscape yard with, all kinds of equipment moving in and out? So that's all I have to say. Do you have any questions?
Are there any other neighbors too right near you there?
Pardon me?
Other neighbors also very close as you are?
The ones that are on the top of this hill, right behind his storage yard, very close. They have to be unnerved by some of this. And why they're not here, I don't know. So those are just my concerns. I'm just wondering, is he gonna expand? Is there gonna be 10, 20 employees? He does a great job. The reviews of him on the internet are great, you know, and that can only mean one thing, it's gonna be more and more and more. So as far as him having his landscaping business, I have to say, it's fine. When it started, it was great. But, you know, if you had someone, a reasonable person, who had someone bringing these large boulders into their yard and right next to them year-round and dropping them into dump trucks, pouring them out of dump trucks, you would have concerns about that level of noise. And it doesn't look very good. You know, it's just kind of it's not a great looking place.
When did it start? You came there 40 years ago, you said. When did this business start?
2 years ago? It started in earnest when he built the building. So that may be 3 to 4 years ago. Time goes by.
2 to 4 years ago?
Yeah. It would be extremely helpful if there could be a conditional use of not working late into the night. Anything past 7, 8 p.m. or or dawn till dusk. But after that, I'm wondering, what is he doing over there? You can't be moving dirt at 11 o'clock at night. So those are my concerns. I'm surprised no one else is here, but I'm the closest one. I'm the guy who gets most of the noise. And yes, he does have those trees about 10 inches tall, and in about 15 years, it'll be a good break. But as it is right now, it's a concern.
All right, thank you, Mr. Arneson. Stand by. Mr. Miller, are you able to answer questions about, does not the town have a requirement for burn permits?
Well, I'm Joe Miller. I'm a member of the Board of Adjustment, but I'm here speaking on behalf of the town of Hammond. As far as I know, the town is not aware of his burning activities other than whether or not he gets a required burning permit from the county, because the town leaves that up to the county to regulate the burning permits.
The town requires a burn permit to be obtained from the county by calling the dispatch office?
Yeah, that's correct.
That's the way it is in the town of Hudson.
Yeah.
And that's the way it is in Hammond also?
Correct.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And if I remember right, presumably it's the same in Hammond, a burn permit has to be, it doesn't allow you to burn poisonous materials or toxic materials.
I would assume that's the case, but I haven't read it. Anytime I've obtained one, it's always been for burning brush.
Mm-hmm. Right. There's a note in Mr. Haig's letter that the culvert doesn't have the proper ends on it. They're evidently plastic rather than metal. Does the town have a way to enforce that?
Well, that would be part of the getting the permit for the culvert, and I don't know if that's a new culvert or an established one. But the town board chairman has looked at that, and they need to be metal like the other ones are. Our problem with plastic has always been that they get banged up by the snow plows and that sort of thing, or run over and cracked and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm. Then they no longer provide their function of dispersing the flow. What about the access on 110th, on 160th Street, the north-south street?
That's
Can the town close that, or is that a grandfathered access, do you think? Or is it only for residents located on that parcel?
The town board chairman's position is that you can only have one driveway access per parcel. So with him having the access on 110th Street and also going across his own property to get over to 160th, that constitutes two accesses for the 110th Street property.
I hear that, Mr. Cheezit, does the county, which also deals with driveway accesses, does the county have a position on that?
The county does not have that as a violation because, and that the dwelling is on that easterly parcel and they're using the access off from 110th Avenue. That westerly parcel, and that is allowed to have another driveway access, which is the one that's coming off from 160th. So I realize that it's serving the dwelling and their use on the other lot. But I mean, every property, we've got a lot of vacant land in that within the county that still has a driveway access in that, whether it's an agricultural access or just a driveway going into a wood lot for somebody to maybe go hunting or whatever. So because they've got two lots, it's not a violation. If they had one lot or they combine both lots into one in the future, then at that point it would be a violation in our current ordinance.
The other thing I just note on that is, if at some point they decide to build a house on that parcel that's vacant currently, they wouldn't get another driveway. Town probably wouldn't grant them another one, so they would have to use the existing one.
Mm-hmm. Understood. If the comment in Mr. Hoog's email about 160th Street being too fast with curves and kids, that suggests to me that, and is that a town road or is that a county? That'd be a town road.
Yes, town road, yes.
Yeah. Now, if the town wanted to post it for speed limit, the town could do that then.
We could, and we've had the discussion over the years about reducing speed limits, and the issue there is that Mr. Wyatt's equipment is driving too fast on 160th further south of his business. We've had several complaints from neighbors a mile south of there that claim that he's driving too fast on 160th.
And so the remedy for that is to ask the sheriff for more patrols, I take it.
I would assume so, yes.
Yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
By default, isn't the speed limit 45 on unposted roads?
On all our town roads, it's 45, yes.
Yes.
Any other questions for Joe about the?
Have you had complaints about all hours of the night working there?
We haven't had any complaints about the burning or any noise complaints at this point from at least the town board chairman hasn't shared any with the rest of us. If he's got them, he's kept them to himself, but,
My other question would be, the neighbors that were notified, how far out did we go on that? Were they all notified as far as we know?
That'd be the usual 300 feet beyond the borders?
300 feet from the borders of the whole property, yep. So it'd be both lots.
And I take it, since there's nothing in Mr. Higgs' letter about dirt being brought out onto the town roads, that the town hasn't been concerned about that at this stage. Is that your understanding, Mr. Miller?
so far, we haven't seen any significant amount of dirt being drug onto the road that has raised a concern with us.
Mm-hmm. If it were, sometimes on some of our permits, we have what do we call it, a drop strip or a sort of a paving on the property where, in theory, at least the dirt would come off the tires before they got onto the public road.
Yeah. So far, that has not been an issue.
Yeah. You didn't comment on that, Mr. Arneson. Have you observed that being a problem? No. Okay. All right, unless you guys think of something else, I think we could, we could move on to take a look at the proposal that Mr. Cheezit has come up with and see how it addresses all the input that we've had. Is that agreeable to you? Okay, when you're ready, we'll take a look at what you propose or recommend, Mr. Cheezit.
All right, so for the findings of fact, for the Wyatt Porter CUP, we've of course got the applicant and the site down. The property is 2.61 acres in size and is zoned R2. The applicant, and that is applying for an application under section 15.330, which is contractor storage yard of the St. Croix County zoning ordinance. The attached accessory structure to the dwelling will also, or is proposed to be used for storage of the equipment for the business as well as their personal items. But the contractor storage yard will allow for outside storage of equipment and employee parking if approved. Hours of operation that are in the application is from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. Winter hours would be less than that. But there could be some hours even on the weekends and that for the weather-related events. Daily traffic estimates are 2 to 5 cars in the morning, 2 to 5 cars in the evening. And that the equipment that would be stored on site would be snow plows, pushers, trenchers, excavators, compact wheel loader, zero-turn mowers, skid steer, and associated attachments, and 3 to 4 trailers. They're proposing 4 full-time staff and 2 to 5 part-time staff. Again, we've talked about the trees and that on the south and the west side of the property. And that even though they're small and that's what the applicant is trying to use for their screening. Any outdoor security lights would be directed downward. And then we go into the general criteria for a contractor storage yard under section 15.330, which is here. Then when we're looking at the approval criteria for the Board of Adjustment here, if you so choose to approve, and that we believe that they probably meet that criteria. So then if the Board of Adjustment would like to approve of the application, staff suggest the following conditions here, 1 through 11. That the contractor storage yard shall be done in accordance with the submitted plan that they filed with us and supporting information. The contractor storage yard shall comply with the standards in section 15.33 of the contractor storage ordinance. The equipment storage should be only for that stuff that we mentioned above, and that above in the findings of fact. But we could allow them to use the shop building for their storage as well. Again, to follow the site plan for where the storage would be. And of course, the rock and other fill materials would be only stored outside on site. Hours of operations shall be based on employees arriving around 6:30 a.m. and leaving with company vehicles and then returning by 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday. Again, with the hours and that a lot less in the winter, but some on the weekends. Any sign permits and that would have to comply with the ordinance. And that any off-street parking requirements would have to follow section 15.430 of the ordinance. The applicant would have 1 year to start the use on the property and 2 years to have their final inspection by staff. And then, of course, some general ones that we always have, and that as far as meeting all other rules and regulations, whether it's local, state, county, or federal, and then any permits that are required for that as well. We don't believe that they're building any buildings in that, but any new buildings would have to comply with the town's building permit requirements. And then just the last two are general.
So do you believe this statement about the hours would prevent operations on the site from the owner who lives there and people like that after 6:30 p.m.?
I do, yep.
Do you believe that this would prohibit operations on Sundays and holidays? Except when there's snow removal?
I do not believe that it would prohibit that currently, but if we wanted to, we could, and that clarify provision number 4 here, and that to be no Sunday hours except for snow removal events, if you would like.
Sounds, I get a general sense that we probably would like.
Okay.
One of my concerns is you know, from what's put on paper and what's actually happening there, 2 to 4 cars a day, and stuff going in and out of there all day, that bothers me. The other thing that bothers me, and I remember the racetrack issue we had up in Somerset, the guy working all hours of the night. That's a real issue, and I think we really have to address both of those in this.
Okay, so I guess we've got the hours and we've got the Sundays. Could that be Sundays and holidays? Could we prohibit on both of those?
Yes, you can.
Yes.
So hours of operation, is that only when it's the employees start and the employees end? Or does it apply towards the whole? So if the employees leave at 6:30 and he wants to do work on his property till 11 or 12 at night, is that part of operation or is that 2 different functions? I'm asking because I don't know.
Yeah, I've removed the employee portion of it there. I would suggest doing hours of operation shall be from 6:30 a.m.
To 6:30 p.m.?
Yes. To 6:30 p.m. Monday through Friday with reduced hours on weekends and winter months, no Sunday and holiday hours except for snow removal events.
So he can't operate then after 6:30. He can't move dirt around and rocks around and those sort of things after 6:30.
Correct. Yep. That's one of the benefits of a CUP application and that, because before he was operating, he didn't have any criteria. And so let's say that the Board of Adjustment was to approve of this CUP with that condition in there, and that if the adjoining property owner can document that he's working past 6:30 at night, then at that point, we would have grounds to take and go after him for a violation of the permit, which could ultimately end up with him on that without a permit, because we couldn't take and pull that permit, so.
My next question is, under current zoning, is he allowed to have rocks stored and soil stored on his property as a part of his business?
No.
No, he is not.
No, he is not, so.
So according to the testimony we heard, there's non-compliance now.
That's what it sounds like as of yesterday, I think the commenter said, and that there was some rock brought in. And that, of course, we don't get out to the site every day, so I can't verify that or say that he's wrong either, you know, so.
We have, it seems to me, thinking back over past practices, we have generally allowed some outside storage, but sometimes we have put, for want of a better word, size limitations or volume limitations. We have said that it may not exceed, let me think, something like 1 dump load or In other cases I can think of, they had set up kind of storage units. There would be like a berm, and it would have perpendicular walls running to the berm. And they'd put black dirt in one and boulders in another and gravel in a third and so on. And that made it easy because that was a part of the drawing that we were approving for that business. It might be that something like that is appropriate here. Or that other one where the guy was crushing the limestone and something. How did we limit the volume on that? Does anybody remember that? Oh, I know what it was. It was the height of the discharge chute, and we said he could only have one pile. So then naturally that set a limit on how much of it there would be. I don't know, do you have any suggestions, Mr. Cheeset or Mr. Wozniak, on how we might appropriately regulate the rocks and stuff?
I'd just offer a comment on this, that these contractor storage yards are intended to allow storage or materials related to the contracting business that does work off-site at other properties. It's not intended for processing, fabricating. Often these contractors are maintaining their equipment. They're cleaning, they're maintaining their equipment. But that's different than, say you were constructing stuff that you were gonna take to another property. It's not intended for that. And so the question, and also I'd say that one thing we try to make clear with the applicants on these is that they're limited to the area, the area they show they're going to store equipment or materials. They can't just keep expanding on different parts of their property, and because there's sometimes drift with these things. They start at one size and they get to be something else, and so those are the two issues. They're not supposed to be, I would argue that burning materials you bring from a job site or modifying, cutting, working on materials, that doesn't really fall under what's intended for the contractor storage yard.
I think, and that the board could definitely put some kind of cap on, the total amount of material stored on site. Being, just thinking of him with a landscaping business, that 1 week he might have a whole bunch of mulch that he needs. The next week it might be black dirt, the next week it might be boulders. And so maybe it would be, like 100, cubic yards of material total on site, so that'd be rock, topsoil, mulch, whatever. That'd be about 5 quad axle loads of material, generally speaking. And that's just an arbitrary number that I'm throwing out there, but that's just an idea of how potentially, if the board wanted to, you could take and create some criteria as far as how much outdoor storage there is of the bulk landscape supplies.
I'd advocate also that we forbid, or however, not allow burning of any materials brought back from the job sites. I think hopefully that would eliminate the possibility of the caustic woods and stuff being burnt.
Well, I do recall we've dealt with various tree services, and I think what we there have said is no non-natural, or there's undoubtedly a better word, things to be burned on the site. Of course, there I think we're overlapping the burn permit requirements, so I'm not sure we need or should do that.
Do we need to call out that he has to have burning permits? I know it says general permits, but I think we should call out that burning permits are required.
Yeah, I guess when I was burning, I'd just call the county and say, yeah, I'm gonna brush fire. So, but how do you, my concern is how do we, if he's hauling in old railroad ties and stuff and burning them, how do you stop that?
And should we? First, do we want to regulate the volume of stuff that's stored outside? Remember now, we're already constricting the hours, and we're saying 6:30 PM is a shut-off. So we're not gonna have boulders banging around in dump trucks late at night. Do we have a legitimate reason to also be regulating the amount of storage on that site? I guess you can sense from the fact I raised the question, I'm not sure it's really an issue.
Are we regulating both parcels or one parcel?
Only one. This-
Just the one, right?
Yeah, nothing is authorized on the other
Right,
parcel.
right. So that's gotta be clear. I'd say, arbitrarily, 100 yards.
You do want to limit the
Yeah.
maximum amount? Yeah. Well, so, okay, if we go in that way, let's put the limit on and let's make it obvious once again, we are only talking about lot 2 or whatever it is. No approvals are being given for the other lot. Now, to deal with the burning, well, I guess Jason's already put something up there. Only clean wood and trees, brush may be burned, and any burning permit shall be obtained, or all burning permits shall be obtained.
So is the applicant asking for storage of rock, boulders and soil? Is that part of the application?
Yes.
It is.
Yep,
Alright.
so that's part of the contractor storage yard. So everything that you guys are changing, and that I've highlighted here in yellow, so we took and we clarified the hours of operation, we clarified the Sunday and holiday hours and that being prohibited except for snow events. And then only clean wood and trees and brush may be burned, and any burning permits shall be obtained. No outdoor storage is allowed on the west lot at the intersection of 110th Avenue and 160th Street.
And I guess there's some feeling here, and I could go either way, but that we limit the total amount of storage. I think
Jason, would
everybody
it be
likes your
useful-
suggestion.
Oh, pardon me, Mr. Chair. Would it be useful to pull up that site plan to show the area identified?
Sure.
I've got
Okay.
it right here.
You're the only one that has it.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, there it is now on the screen.
Oh, there, okay.
It's, record should show we have a hand-drawn, not to scale, sketch of the lot in question, which shows the house and the shop and the yards, and it shows circles for boulders and dirt, both located to the southeast of the driveway and parking area. And each of smallish size. The circle for dirt and the circle for boulders are each smaller than the size of the house, just for an example. So if we limit the storage to 100 cubic yards, which is 5 large dump trucks, it would fit on that space that's indicated on the sketch provided by the applicant. Okay. Did I remember to close the hearing?
Don't think we did.
Okay. This is dangerous, but I'm gonna ask Mr. Arneson, is there anything more you wanna say, having heard where we are headed here?
No, it's very good. You know, I failed to mention how long the backup beepers last, so the hours of operation would be very helpful.
Got it.
Yeah, I think that covers it for me.
Okay, Mr. Arneson indicates that he generally agrees with this, has no significant objection. All right, I will then close the hearing. We won't take any more testimony or documents anymore. Board, we've been working with Mr. Cheezit here and appear to be converging on a, I saw your smile, Mrs. Peterson, converging on a decision. Anybody want to say anything more before making a motion? All right, who wants the glory of making this motion?
I'll make it because I wasn't around for the other one.
Oh, yeah, there you go, yeah.
I'll make a motion to approve this conditional use permit with the modifications that were just laid out in yellow.
I'll second.
Okay, I'll note for the record, we're not addressing speed limits, we're not addressing Jake brakes, we're not addressing loud acceleration away from the site and down the highway. We are relying on the normal processes of the highway patrol to deal with those, or with our county deputies to enforce noise limits and speed limits. All that said, all in favor should now vote aye.
Aye.
And opposed, nay. That's a unanimous decision. All right. What shall we do next? Let's talk about when our next meeting is. Make sure we're all on board for that.
Mr. Chairman, I will just let you know that at this point, to the best of our knowledge, we have no applications to be heard at the January 23rd meeting.
All right, and if there is to be a January 23rd meeting, you would be letting us know by when? Your cutoff date for publication and stuff?
And that was at the first of the month here and that, so right now, we're not looking at any January Board of Adjustment meetings. We're gonna give you a month off, so.
Well, we're gonna rejoice.
Yep. I do have one other announcement, Mr. Chair, and that is just a remembering, and that on December 18th, over at the Baldwin Ag Center, the UW Stevens Point Center of Land Use and Education is gonna be doing a Board of Adjustment training. That training starts at 1 o'clock. And then also that training will be followed by Heather Amos, our Corp Counsel, doing a presentation on Robert's Rules of Order, parliamentary procedure, that kind of stuff. And then that evening, we will be having a training for town boards and town planning commissioners, and just some of the general stuff that they see in regards to land divisions, rezonings, and then also a little bit on what you guys do here with the Board of Adjustment. So, so to keep that on your schedule if you're able to attend.
Did you say starting at 1:30?
And that,
Or did I have that?
it'll start at 1 o'clock.
At 1
Yep.
o'clock?
1:30 on the calendar, I'm gonna change that.
Isn't it 1?
And how long?
Hold on 1 second. So Julie's checking.
Mr. Arneson, are you retired?
I am.
Let's see, you live in Hammond Township though, don't you? Yeah. We're always looking for good people to join us here, but we've already got Mr. Miller. So we can only have one at a time from a township.
He's the man.
Yeah, good.
Yeah, we're looking to recruit.
And does it look like 1 o'clock is the okay number there?
It does, and if I find out something different, I will let you all know.
And did you say there's something going on in the evening as well? So what's the quitting?
So there is the Board of Adjustment training, and then Corp Counsel Amos's training. There's a half an hour break for dinner, and then there's Plan Commission training.
So if a person were staying for the whole thing, it'd be like 7 p.m. breakup?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Got it in there.
What's for dinner?
And I did confirm in that, so the zoning board of adjustment and appeal training is from 1 o'clock to 3 o'clock, so it's 2 hours. And then, the presentation from Heather is between 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock. And then there's a half-hour break in that between 4 and 4:30, and then 4:30 to 7, and that's the plan commission town board training, so. And it's completely free for all of us to attend, so it's very nice that Crew is being, a good sponsor and helping us out with that training.
Yeah, that's great. They generally have very good, very well qualified speakers.
To answer your question, Mr. Peterson, dinner is on your own.
For a half an hour, so bring your lunch.
So what are we having?
Yeah. I resign. Okay, you got a chance to sign? Good, you can give it to Julie, I guess. I believe then, that's all we need to do, and, it's 11:52, I declare us adjourned.
Sorry, I missed the first part, but
Are you okay?
the last couple of weeks been, my brother passed away and then I had surgery and
Oh,
then had COVID during recovery of surgery.
oh, wow.
And then, so this week I'm just back to work, but I forgot to transfer the point to the meeting over.
I forgot to ask why